we're going to win. And we're going to win a championship. Otherwise, why are we doing it?
What's going on, Cowboys Nation? Thank you guys so much for joining us on this Wednesday evening. Really, really appreciate you guys. As always, it's your girl, Cravin Cowboys in the building. And you guys always know I got Mrs. Star in the building. How you doing tonight, girl?
What's up? What's up, everybody? Glad to be here for another episode of StarChasers Girls Talk Ball. You know, it's always great when me and my girl Mickey get together for another episode of StarChasers Girls Talk Ball. We're so excited. We have a lot to talk about today. We're going to talk about last week. We talked about offensive hot seat candidates, and today we're going to be getting into on the defensive side of the ball, some the position group battles like the defensive backs or cornerbacks, safeties, and the linebackers.
Yeah.
But y'all know, before we get started, please like the video, please share the video, please subscribe to both my channel and Mickey's channel, which is down there on the screen, Cravin Cowboys and Stargazer Sports. We really appreciate y'all.
Yes, just like Star said, make sure you guys hit the like, hit the share, hit the subscribe, and really appreciate you guys joining us. And just like she said, yeah, we're going to jump into the defensive side of things. You know, I'm just kind of catching up on some shows this past weekend. It really didn't register to me that camp was actually literally next week. The guys do touchdown. I believe next Sunday, next Monday, and then they start practicing on the 21st. So I'm very excited about that. You know, I'm just really looking forward to, you know, it's here, you guys. I'm pretty much here next week, and looking to see the guys, matriculate to Oxnard, and these guys, just really start, showing what they've been doing all off season, I should say. The preparation, like we talked about last week, what they've been putting into each other, what they've been putting into their individual games as well, and also what they've been putting into the coaching staff. They spend a lot of time with these guys, outside the building, talking about football things, of course, but also at the same time, really getting to know their coaches, their groups, these guys in the same room. And just like Star said, we're going to jump into the defensive side today, but really, really love just some of the things, before we do jump into the defensive side, just hearing some things from the OL mastermind just quickly, sis. I don't know if you were able to get a chance to see Booker and Tyler Smith kind of speak some of the interviews. I really love what they were, pretty much as a reiteration of what we were talking about last week. These guys really getting to know each other, really inside and out, speaking about the young guys coming up. I just really love seeing, kind of a full circle when we talk about CD and his maturation. Another guy that we've seen some maturation with as well is Tyler Smith. Booker talks about him a lot.
Yep.
The guys in the offensive line as well. Guyton talking about how caught him underneath his wing. So I just love that these guys had a chance to get those words out. And just before we jump into the defense side, what's your thoughts on that, sis? These guys continuing to give praise and continue to also give words of advice to these young guys coming up.
Yeah, I think, it's super important. I think that obviously these young kids, I mean, the rookies and stuff like that, like they need guidance. And that's why it is important for players like Tyler Smith to take Guyton under his wing. It's important for that. It's important for um people like, even I think Pickens, you know what I'm saying, leading, and people like
Yeah,
Osa, you know what I'm saying, trying to get these Micah, especially,
yeah,
trying to get the players around them to play at the level they perform in. I think that's the next step for our team.
yeah,
We have good players here, we have good players there, we have good players everywhere, but it's like, can we get the supporting cast to play up? And I think the only way that you get the supporting cast play up is through leadership, reps, and bond and continuity. And I think that that has really been the focus of this offseason. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Shotty said, he's like, listen, I'm a ex, I know football, I'm an X's and O's guy, but what sets me apart is I'm a I build relationships with people.
yeah,
And I feel like that's really been the focus this off season: building relationships, building relationships, building relationships. Uh Micah, just there was just an article put out. Um I don't remember who put it out, I ain't gonna lie, but but there's an article put out recently, um with about Micah, and about, why did he choose to show up to OTAs? Why did he choose to, do mini camp? You see people all around the league, sitting out. They're like, I didn't get my
yeah,
money, I'm not participating. Like, there's that
right,
whole thing with the second round picks, which I don't know what's going on there, but players are sitting out,
yeah,
and Micah was like, listen, all I do is continue to work and put my head down. He was like, if somebody doesn't see the value in you, then you keep working until they see the value. And I don't think in this case is that the front office don't see the value. I think the front office, it's just their thing to sign their players in August or September. I don't know how else to spin it. And
right,
I put on Twitter, I was like, listen, or X, I've said, Micah is taking the DAC approach, and I think that's the best approach for him. I
yeah,
know in the past it's been, if you want to get paid, you need to sit out. But it's like, bruh, they've shown you over since 2019, you can sit out all you want. Go ahead and sit out. We're not paying you until we want to pay you, period. So
right.
it's like, only sitting out is only hurting you because you're the ones going to be behind.
Facts,
It's
facts.
going to be you looking dumb on Sunday. Like, look how CD and Dak was looking in those in
They
those
catch
in
up.
those right, you playing catch up, and nobody cares about the excuses on Sunday. All they know is you dropped the ball, you ran the wrong route, you threw an interception. That's how people look at. They don't look at the other factors like, oh, well, CD just started practicing last week.
Right.
They don't look at that type of stuff. They just fans especially look at results. So anyway, I say all that to say that, like, I'm glad that the players are building relationships, building bonds, and doing their absolute best to hit the ground running come September.
Yeah.
Game one versus Philly.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, sis. I'm glad you said that. I definitely agree that Mike is taking the DAC approach. I mean, and we've seen that pretty much since the onset of the offseason. We've seen him take his guys, take the linebacker room, defensive line group as well. Out training. You've seen them train with Osa, taking the younger depth guy, the guys deeper on the chart. Taking them out the workout as well. Giving them
Hmm.
little hints, tricks of the trade, things like that. And I like that you brought that up because it was kind of, a lot of talk in the beginning of the offseason about whether Micah or not would show up, how, because that was really a big thing. And really, I forget who says it a lot. Burgess and Blitz, I believe, he says the call comes from inside the house. And so I think we see that, a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, the front office has shown their hand. We know how the Cowboys operate. So why not, like you said, why not take it upon yourself? You just kind of take upon that leadership role, because like you said, it really affects the player. At the end of the day, with the end season. And even just like you mentioned with CD, not just playing catch up with Dak, but also we saw CD take although he was trying to Dak was working to get the ball to him a lot. He was taking a lot of hits. He was kind of beat up, kind of halfway through the season. That could have something to do with, missing that time,
Yeah, missing that time because you wasn't. It's like, yeah, you could. There's only so much training you can do. Like CD
Facts.
wasn't in football shape. That's just what it
Right.
was. He wasn't
Right.
in
Zach
football
Martin.
shape.
Zach Martin, the
Zach
year
Martin.
before, what I'm saying?
Yep.
He went through it, a little bit, he went his own way about it, but, kind of the same thing. So that's kind of maybe a worry, and maybe some players who do sit out, what I'm saying? Hopefully we
Yep.
won't see, like I said, well, like we've been saying, I think it's a good thing that Mike is, kind of taking upon himself to kind of take on that role. And, since we did bring up Mike, if you want to start with the linebacker group, it'd be cool with that, just as far as the position battles. I kind of want to bring up, I know this, this particular guy, I want to share this tweet just quickly. And then
And what's up to you, Marcus McFarland in chat? Appreciate you, buddy.
Yes, Spencer. Yeah, appreciate you joining us. Appreciate you, fam. But like I said, I know this guy will be joining us, till maybe midway through the season. He says he wants to be actually me. Okay, yeah, there we go. DeMarvion Overshown, of course, we know he took on, the number 0 first time this season. I think it's the first time ever in the league. I believe he says wearing the number 0. So very happy for him to be able to, get the opportunity to show, whenever he does get the chance to see the field again, be able to show, hopefully another leap. I believe this is what third year, going to a 4th year, I believe, and
Yep.
hopefully for him to be able to take another step, albeit, a third defensive coordinator. I think the second for Overshown. Actually, no, the third. I believe he did work his last year with Quinn, but I think he got hurt earlier. I don't know if he played with them in the regular season, but the turnover is pretty crazy with these coaches. It's crazy. We're talking about with Duke, talking about how many offensive line coaches. We could look at it on the other side with defensive line as well, with as far as coordinators. For this team. So hopefully we'll see another drop from this guy. But I think with this. Talking about the group in general, you see other guys, Damone Clark, Maris Leofau, guys that were brought in through free agency, Kenneth Murray, Jack Sanborn, guys like that. I think we're, kind of like we talked about last week, sis. Let me know your thoughts on this, but kind of how I'm not gonna say it's a completely open forum like I mentioned last week with the running back group, but with these linebackers, we do have a plethora of guys who bring different things to the table, and I think that will kind of in my opinion, kind of give way to a little bit more open competition, a little bit more of these guys being able to show what they can, because, we have a Maris Leofau who plays fast, plays with his hair on fire, who can make plays, and who can, we seen last year in Zimmer's scheme, we saw him kind of do some of the things like that Kendrick was doing, we saw him take, him take some snaps at the mic, I think, some plays when Kendrick wasn't in there, or when Kendrick, I think he missed a game or two last season, but seeing him, take a leap in the second year, because he doesn't. I think I was listening to Botch's show. I think he did with Brian Broaddus, and it might have just been a solo show that Botch did. Shout out to Botch. He was on our show early this
yeah, shout out to Botch. Yeah,
friend of the show. But I love what he said about Maris doesn't necessarily have. Well, he does and he doesn't necessarily have, vouchers, sponsors in the building. But granted, he's a young player. He I think he'll get, a fair shot at being able to gain his spot, along with the Overshown, along with, I don't know if like Mark said, Damone Clark just have some years under his belt and may not necessarily have sponsors in the building. But I think these younger guys, he's still, young. I think he still has a chance to grow and progress as well. So I think these younger guys will, although there are veterans in the room, I think they'll still get a fair shot, in training camp with these competitions.
Yeah, I agree with that. And so I think that, Overshown, and shout out to Overshown because he was just voted the number 8 linebacker by NFL coaches and execs off. Yeah, I think the number like the off ball linebacker, obviously. But he was just voted that by the NFL execs. I mean, and it was nothing but just raving reviews. Like they think, basically, they think he's the next big thing. You know what I'm saying? They're like, this kid is amazing. great instincts, plays with his hair on fire. Completely, they one said completely takes over games. Like
Yeah.
so, and I said that. I said Overshown was playing at an all pro level. Before he got down, I mean, before he went down, he was literally playing at an all pro level. And so it's just unfortunate. I know he's gonna try his hardest to get back, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But you know, we know it'll be a little bit of it's gonna be a while before we see him. We probably not gonna see him till end of October, November, I feel like at the earliest.
Yeah.
Can't remember when he hurt himself, but it was late in the season when he hurt himself. Because I think he still, even with him being hurt, he played at least 13 games, I think. So he's going to be out for a while. But if you
Yeah.
look at a guy that I have, well, we can talk about Maris. Maris was we all know on this show, if you've been following us, Maris was my pet cat, right?
Correct.
Was my pet cat, you know, putting people on like y'all need to check out this kid from Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Come to find out, you know, a lot of our content creators, Boss, Foots, like all were seeing what I was seeing, that this guy has the potential to be a future Mike. This guy could have the potential to be our Fred Warner, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But as you were saying that Vosh was talking about, the sponsors, you know what I'm saying? Because Maris was, believe, the idea originally to be the Mike, but who did Eberflus bring in?
Sanborn
And who
and
else?
Murray.
And Murray, right? Mm-hmm. He brought in Sanborn and Murray.
Yeah.
And we know Murray said he was brought here to be the Mike.
Correct.
That's what Murray has said. Murray has said, I was brought here to be the Mike. Now,
right.
Do we know? And what's up to you guys, the Basement Boys, CJ the Original? Really appreciate y'all. Be sure to like the video and share. We usually have some more people in here, so hopefully more people come in.
Yeah.
Look at him. Look, boss. Shout out to Boss Man, Boss. Boss Cowboys Sports. Y'all know Boss is a guy y'all need to please go subscribe to him if y'all haven't already.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
I know y'all should be subscribed to him, but if y'all haven't, please go subscribe to him. But talking about Maris, he's kind of lost his sponsors because now you're competing now with Sanborn, who is Eberflus's guy, and then Murray, who's now been added. And I mean, it's looking like he's the guy to be primed for that position. Yeah. I think a lot of people thought it was Sanborn, you know what I'm saying? But I think Murray, if I had to put money on it, I would say Murray will be our starting Mike linebacker.
Yeah.
Go ahead, sis.
No, I was just gonna say, just like you were saying, he's putting a lot of work. Just kind of watching this tape, he shows a lot of his mental side. You know what I'm saying? I know there's, some plays where he did, overreach. You know what I'm saying? Kind of overshoot his gap. But I think a lot of this play is, kind of. I'm not saying that he plays without thinking, but just like some of the quarters have been saying that, we want these guys to play without having to think. So I think he shows a lot of the speed on the field.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'm thinking, like, I appreciate that, boss. We're trying to upgrade our look and everything, our intro and everything. So I appreciate that. But I think that Sanborn, Murray, they have the upper hand. But I have heard that Flus probably just sees Maris as more of like a wheel linebacker. I think that they're going to have Maris play the position that Overshown is going to play when he comes back. I think that's the vision. I think they're going to send him on blitzes. I think they want him to just run like Overshown, just run around with your hair on fire. They know he can drop back in the coverage because we've got to remember when Maris was in Notre Dame, they had Maris doing everything. You know what I'm saying? Maris was damn near, they had him playing safety and all that type of stuff. So I pray, fix Clark. And then we go talk about Clark because remember Clark, what's his name? Shoddy was asked about Clark at the beginning of the offseason. He was asked about Clark specifically. And he said he feels like it's finally coming together for Clark.
Yeah.
Because we know we've talked about Clark on this show. The players going that way, Clark is telling the players to go the other way. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
they
Right.
were not,
Exactly.
the mental side of the game for Clark was just not there.
Yeah.
And hence why he didn't hardly play last year. Zimmer was
He
like,
was
you could do
bland.
some right, you could do some
Yeah.
spot dude, but you're not being
Right.
on
Yeah.
my field because he just didn't have it. And y'all got to remember, this is the guy that was playing middle linebacker. Him and Bell was our middle linebackers
Right.
on
We
our
lost
Super Bowl
LBE.
year in
Yeah, man.
2023. So it's like, be for real, please. But
Yeah.
I do hope, I agree with Boss. I do hope that Eberflus, and what's up, Amp? Shout out to Amp, another great
What's up, Ant?
content creator. Amp Sports, y'all please go show Amp some love. Please go show Amp some love and subscribe to his YouTube channel as well,
Yeah.
Amp Sports. But yeah, hopefully Flus can unlock Damone Clark, because remember, Damone Clark was honestly seen as like the steal of the draft when we drafted him. He only really failed to where he failed because he ended up having to have that surgery like right before the draft.
Yeah.
So,
And
yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and I also agree with what CJ the original said that about him being kind of a ball hawk, a heat seeker for the ball. I think we've seen some of that. When Clark, I think his first couple of years, I don't know. I remember all the games he played very well, and I do remember a couple of Vikings games where he did play. He was pretty much seeking out the ball. I think that's when they still had Dalvin Cook. He made a lot of those tackles. You know what I'm saying? So I love his speed towards the ball when he's just like we talk about. Have being able to play without thinking. I think Damone Clark plays the best that way. And I think even just a couple years ago, I think that clip from our intro. I think we were actually talking about the Lions game and Damone Clark taking hopefully a step forward. Last year.
Yeah,
like you say, he really didn't play a lot of snaps. So hopefully this season, with better coaching, because that could really be the key to unlock a lot of these guys currently on our roster is the coaching.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about that a lot this offseason, but about I think, at least in my opinion, the emphasis being on coaching this season. And I think if we can elevate these guys, maybe who kind of no disrespect, but maybe falling behind, maybe like a Damone Clark, or kind of elevate some of these former first round picks. We could really see a turnaround. And we could may not have to reach back into free agency. Of course, what some of the other positions we had, we would love to look at free agency like DT, but as far as like linebacker, what I'm saying, even with these veterans, I think shoring up the depth or being starters, I think we kind of can get the younger guys, kind of coached up, playing better and being able to play without thinking. I think, besides the boss, I think he's absolutely right. I think we can really get them and kind of getting back into his leadership role as well, because technically he's a vet in that room, and I think he likes being that, because I think he kind of got attached to the hip with LBE, and even Dave Borgante the line. I think
right, Dave, right, yeah.
He was Shai said he was like this with Borgante when he got in the building. So
right.
Sometimes and that can help too. Maybe trying to make sure he has a sponsor, although all his sponsors may be gone. Making sure he has a guy that he can look to.
Right, it's about establishing that new connection. And Shadi was talking about how Damone, like, he wants to please. He's a pleaser, you know what I'm saying? Right. So he definitely has been working with Dave Borgante since I believe he found out that Dave Borgante was going to be our linebackers coach. So, and we got to remember he did the same thing with Paul Gunther last year, who was our linebackers coach under. Well, he wasn't our linebackers. He was basically the linebackers coach. We still had Scott McCurley, but he was the run game coordinator, but he was a linebackers coach. We already know that. So I hope so. I mean, because if I will say this, if Flus can't unlock you, nobody can for a linebacker. Like, so if Flus cannot fix Damone Clark, I just don't think that it's just ever gonna really. It's never gonna really resonate with him. But I hope he does, because I mean, Damone has everything you would want in a prototypical linebacker. Yeah, but the thing that he lacks is the physicality that you want. You want the physicality. And when he got that neck injury, I think it just changed the way that that's what he said, boss. I think it just changed the way that he approached the game. But I think if he can get back to just playing like Overshown know he injury prone, which I think he need to slow down a little bit. But Overshown does not
Yeah.
let his injury stop him from playing how he is, which is with his hair on fire.
Yeah.
And so, I know it's easier said than done. Albeit like, oh yeah, just play free, even though you got a neck injury. You know what I'm saying? I know it's easier said than done, but
Right.
I think that if you're gonna play linebacker,
Right.
like you gotta be a thumper. You gotta come forward. You gotta knock some heads off. We don't want no soft linebackers. That's how you get
Yeah.
got
That's where a lot of action
right.
happens.
That's how you get got in the run game.
Right. Yeah, no, that's absolutely correct. I mean, you have those shifty players, you have those running backs, you have those wide receivers in the slot, who can really, really get away from those guys at the second level. So it's very important, like you said, to have the physicality and to not be afraid to step up and hit. I mean, we saw that a couple of times with Damone, in his early years, where not saying he was afraid to, but we kind of saw that hesitation, that kind of allowed guys to kind of get by him.
Right.
So like you were saying, if we kind of get that shored up, that would really be amazing. And just even some other guys, we're talking about battles and things like that. Some other guys in the room, Darius Harris, Shamar James.
Yeah, I be forgetting about Shamar James. What's up, Twyman?
Yeah.
Glad to see you, buddy. And
Right.
Meech, glad to see you guys. Shout out to y'all in the chat.
Yes.
Y'all be sure to hit the like button when
Yes,
you when you come in. But you're right, I be forgetting about we good at linebacker, sis. I think we good at linebacker. We are just the room is stacked. The room is stacked.
Yeah, for real. It is. Yeah, and even though they brought in guys like a Sanborn and Murray, I do think that, at least for me, I look at guys like Buddy Harris and Buddy Johnson and Darius Harris as quote unquote veterans, because they have a year or a couple of years in the camp. Familiar with some of the coaches I know. Like we've seen the turnover, but we have guys familiar with the program who's been in the building. So I like having those guys there as well. I think Harris had a decent camp last season. I know he didn't pop a lot, but I think it was in that third preseason game where we saw him, kind of get down. I think it was a Seattle or the Raiders. I forget where the third preseason game he was against, but I think we saw him kind of pop in the last preseason game. Love seeing that. And Buddy Johnson, we saw him get into a couple games last season. I don't know if he had a lot of snaps, but I like what I saw from him, and I like what I saw from him in camp as well. He had I think some good play.
Yep.
I think that, I saw him kind of switching at the second level. So I like, seeing some of those guys in that room. And I think, like you said, since I think our linebackers are straight, it's just a matter of, kind of weeding out, who brings what you need at that particular moment. But I think these guys, not saying that they're not going to see stars in death, but I think we'll see a lot of these guys on the field, in different situations.
Okay, so right now today, who you think will be the starting 3 linebackers?
Starting 3 linebackers. I would have to say I really want Murray. And I really see Marist. And my final, as far as veterans, do you think they'll go with Sam? I hate to just go with all veterans just because they brought them over.
Yeah.
I'm saying automatically go with Murray because they traded for him. But I would love, at least for me, I would love to see Marist and Murray out there. I want to see those 2 guys. As far
third,
as
we're not sure. I agree with that. I do think Murray, if I had to pick today, I would say Murray, Maris. The third, I'm not sure on, because that's the spot where it's like, could be Damone. Maybe Buddy Johnson shows us something. Maybe Shamar James shows us something. I mean, he definitely, Flus was super excited when he got him. Because he's only 20 years old. So Flus is looking at him like, I can mold him into exactly what I want, and he has all the tools. You know what I'm saying? He just needs refinement. So it's gonna be real interesting. But I for sure. But you know what? I said 3, so I got to pick. So I'll say Maris, Murray. Wild card, I'll say Shamar James.
Okay.
I think Shamar James, because I think Flus hand selected him. He didn't. I think he probably wanted Murray before, but Murray went to a different team. But I think Maris, you just can't pass up. When you look at Maris, you see his talent and you see his mentality. you're not keeping him on the bench. Like, why would you keep him on the
Yeah,
bench? Like, he didn't play
right.
on
I
the.
agree.
Well, he technically came off the bench, but he played a lot for Zimmer. He played a lot for Zimmer.
Yeah.
But I think this Shamar James kid, if he could put it together, I don't know, but I think it's gonna be interesting to see how that battle plays out.
Yeah, I feel like he'll be like kind of like that wild card, like how we look at Ezraku. Like, although he's a rookie, although he's a second round pick, you know what I'm saying? I feel like they're kind of work him in, no matter what. Like he's kind of
Right.
like their ace in the hole, like you know what I'm saying? Like they'll try to work him in no matter
Right.
what.
They gonna. I think I agree with that. I think that he gonna sneak him in. But Damone, I'm pulling for Damone. Damone, I want you to play. I want you to play
Yeah,
because you just basically got erased last year. Like you wasn't
yeah,
playing at all. So I want Damone to play because when you look, Damone is fast AF. Like if he could just seriously put it together up here, Damone could easily
yeah,
have an incredible season. Easily. But if he has
yeah.
to put it together. He has to put it together.
Yeah, yeah. I think we'll see. I think we'll see some fourth, fifth year jump from Damone Clark. I just like what you said earlier about him, wanting to do the right things. I'm saying he's tried to make the connections, from the players to the coaches, from LBE, like we mentioned earlier, to the coaches. So I think him putting the willingness to learn, these coaches willing to put these players in the right situations that help them, because that's what I like about the coaching staff is they're looking for the players'
Right.
strengths, not the other way
Right.
around where the players have to find their way into the scheme. The players are trying to, they're trying to fit it into the players' strengths. So I think they'll, and even we're talking about them working the rookies, and I think they'll work in Damone Clark to see if he's put it together, if he's picked up the game, like he's been doing in the offseason.
Yeah.
Just like I know we haven't gotten there yet, but just like Elam, Kyrie
Right.
Elam, he's playing with his hair on fire, and
Yeah.
and being the fastest DB on the first, fastest player on the field. But I think they'll try to see if he can put it together during camp. So I think it'll be the same situation with Damone. They're putting him in certain situations
Right.
to see if it has clicked.
Exactly. They're gonna packages. They'll have certain packages for sure, but because I think they're gonna try to get everybody involved for the most part, especially Zimmer. I mean not Zimmer. Sorry, Flus. I mean he loves his linebacker, so I really think that they're gonna have develop different packages and different things like that, and really look at what he's best
Yeah,
at. Where should we put him here? Should we deploy him here and there? I think it's how they're gonna go about it. Um,
yeah,
It'll also, I mean, the basement. He said, if Shamar James shows up, Damone will be on the block for sure. We could possibly
yeah. I
see
can see that
too.
too.
Be on the lookout for um, what was it? A trade. Be on the lookout for a camp trade because this is what 2 years in a row they have done
Yeah,
player for player trade. So
yeah,
especially at camp. So if Damone does, if they're feeling, they're watching the linebackers, and they're looking like Shamar James is beating out Damone, you can see a
yeah,
trade. You can see a
yeah. Especially
player
get some.
trade.
Yeah, I feel you on that. Especially get some. Hate to say some worth out of him, but you've had him for some time. You've invested in him. So, and just like they did, I don't know if it was. I think it was just last year with the DB that they traded to the Vikings. When Zimmer was here. So I think I agree with you there, sis.
Yep. Okay, so
We can go to the. You want to move on to the DBs?
yeah, let's move on to the DBs.
Okay. Because shout out to Law Nation. I've seen a lot of his clips. A number of his clips actually have shown. They actually do have I think a tweet. I think from Brandon Laurie of Diggs going against. Let me see. I have it. What? Well, I just had this right now. Let me bring this up. With Deron Bland, Wanye Thomas, Kyrie Elam were working out at the Star during the holiday, the 4th of July holiday.
Mm-hmm.
And really, and it wasn't just them. Also, Savone Rebel as well. At the facility, putting in some extra work.
Oh yeah. I saw that. Yeah. Okay. I remember that.
Okay, yeah, here we go. Yeah. Pretty and it's not just, of course we know Wanye's, is going to be part of maybe the safety slash DB rotation, but so we can kind of work those, work these together. We'll go over the DBs first and then, follow up with the
Right.
safeties. But it was really amazing, seeing these guys, putting this extra work in them, but Simone Rebel as well. The tweet I showed earlier, Kenneth Murray at the facility putting in some extra work. So we covered it pretty much the whole offseason. These guys put in extra work. Micah working with this, working with his group. I just love seeing that extra preparation. These guys putting extra because we know, just like we talked about with the, with the other two rooms earlier. The DB room could really be, an open forum for these guys to kind of step up and show what they really have. We heard, really just a variety of things. As far as Kyer Elam, one of the fastest players on the field, playing with his hair on fire. Needing kind of that second chance. This coach, even he said he's feel like this coaching staff is, putting their belief in him. He feels like he can, kind of step up and, kind of put forth that hard work and feel like he can, stand up amongst these, the other guys in the room. Wanye Thomas, I love this for him. I love that they're giving him a chance to play, not just safety, but also I think they said they had them playing. So I think boundary. I think they've had them playing some boundary. And correct me if I'm wrong, sis, please.
You said Wanye?
Yeah, Wanye.
Not boundary. He's playing slot. They had him playing slot. Yeah.
Okay. All right. My mistake. But yeah, I love that they're giving him a second chance because it's kind of the same thing we're talking about, Damone Clark. I know he hasn't been here as long as Clark, but, a guy who's been, here at the camp the last, a few years. So I think he came in with Marquise Bell. They kind of spoke a lot about their relationship. When they first entered in, they came in the camp together and seeing Wanye Thomas, take different, really a variety of snaps, not just safety, but like Star just mentioned, that slot, also taking some kickoff, I think some punt returns last season in camp as well. So just really, I love Wanye. He just, not saying he's similar to Damone, but just like we talked about earlier about Damone wanting to put forth the work. I see that in Wanye as well. He likes to he likes to be on the field. I hated to kind of see, kind of some of, that's saying his snaps were taken away, but we really didn't see a ton of him. I think, at least in my opinion, in the last few years, that I think we should have seen. So I think seeing Wanye get an opportunity, a new coaching staff, which means new sponsors, but I think, new opportunities. So I think we'll definitely see more of him on the field. And, of course, DaRon Bland, we've seen things about him, whether he wants to play boundary or slot, I think that'll kind of depend on where they've been able to, where they're kind of work other guys. We see Izzy, working at both, what I'm saying? So I think as far as where DaRon will play, I think it's kind of, depending on where they place these other guys. So I think, we'll just definitely see in kind of an open forum with these guys will be competing at camp next week.
Yeah, I think that, first of all, this is a contract year for Bland. So I expect Bland to have a big year. You know what I'm saying? And shout out to Boss, because Boss talked about in the chat about how, not in the chat, but just on his show when he was reviewing film of Elam, he said that Elam needed to work with a track coach. And then we found out in the offseason, Elam started working with a track coach. And I feel like, honestly, that should be the same thing that Bland should work on. Like, if he's like, if I want to know what was Bland improving on, I would say working on his speed and his twitchiness. You know what I'm saying? Trying to get a little bit faster, because Bland's knock and reason why people are saying like Bland, he's not an outside corner, is because he doesn't have that speed or that twitch that you would typically look for. You know what I'm saying? In an outside corner to deal with these. We saw him get got. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Versus number one wide receivers, you know what I'm saying? They was kind of getting the best of him. Not all of them, but DK Metcalf. But sometimes it wasn't even number ones. He got by Devontae Smith. I remember him getting got by Jackson Smith and Jigba. I went to that game live where he got everything taken from him by Jackson Smith and Jigba. So it's like, I think Blaine obviously has incredible hands. That's his specialty. Like Diggs, like they have a incredible knack to get the football, but we need you to be better when it comes to certain types of coverage, like route runners and also long speed guys. So it's like, I think that's how Bland could try to improve. I don't know how much you can really improve your speed that much, but I think if he could just get himself a little bit faster or twitchier, that probably would be great. I think that when and a guy we don't have on here because he's training out in California, um, Izzy McQuamu. Um, McQuamu was really my sleeper for real. Of and also that's another thing. Sorry, I'm gonna go back to Izzy, but I kind of got distracted by this video with Diggs. But I do think it's highly impressive that Diggs is moving like this right now.
Yeah.
Now I still want us to slow cook him, but I mean, if he's moving like this right now, I don't know how much longer he's going to allow them to just sideline him, because I think Diggs knows like the Joneses wanted to trade him,
Wow.
and had he been healthy, he probably would have been traded this offseason had he been healthy.
Yeah.
So I think Diggs, has wants a lot to prove, and I think he also wants to get back from Micah, because this could very well be his last year here, and I think he wants to play. You know what I'm saying? Like Micah,
Yeah.
CD, those are his brothers, so I think he's trying to get back just as soon as possible, because this could be the last year that he plays with us, and so, which is unfortunate. You know what I'm saying? I think
It really is.
it's unfortunate. I would love for. And I think it really will all depend, if Diggs could get back, and then when he gets back have a great season, then I think it will give the Joneses some hesitation. But we know how the Joneses like to do. They'll get rid of Amari Cooper for Gallup. So they'll get rid of Diggs for Bland. You know what I'm saying? They're like, we don't need Diggs, we got Bland. And we know that even though they both have a knack for the football, Bland is not Diggs, period.
Right.
But
because what was that? Didn't we hold on to Schultz? Like I think instead of paying the I think the high paying tight end we had at the time. I forget who.
Probably. I mean, we do that. We will pay the lesser player because he's cheaper.
Yeah.
That's just how the Cowboys do it. You know what I'm saying? It's just like we let Byron Jones walk, our all pro corner for who? Cheeto? Right. Cheeto and Antonio Brown. I mean, not Antonio Brown, Anthony Brown. Like that's the type of shit that we do.
Shoot, so now we didn't pay J. Lou, and now we're looking for
exactly. We didn't play. Now I'm not gonna lie, I was not mad with J. Lou going, because I believe that spot could be well. One, he deserved his money, but also I believe that Izzy should be able to. I believe in Izzy. You know what I'm saying? So I wasn't too worried about it. Yeah. That's why I think even with who I didn't talk about, the guy we got. Oh, Kyer Elam. I talked about him a little bit, but Kyer Elam, we know we kept hearing his name nonstop.
Yeah.
At minicamp, OTAs. So we'll see if he's able to maintain that at camp, and then of course we got to see how he actually plays. But I think they brought Kyer Elam, and the reason why we probably not going to get someone like a Gilly, I think they're going to evaluate the corners. If they feel like we need more, they're going to go out and get Gilly. But I feel like they're going to give Kyer Elam what they call baby seat.
Yeah, Kalen Carson. No,
Carsey. Yeah, they're calling him Carsey Carson, but they're gonna give Carsey, Elam.
Yeah, they got Booth still, Butler.
Did we not cut Booth?
No, I mean he's still.
I thought we cut Booth. God, no, we got to cut Booth immediately because that's a no. But and Butler is still recovering from that ACL.
Yeah,
I think, but. They're gonna let and there's somebody. Oh, and Izzy. I think they're gonna let them guys battle it out and see. I don't think all three of them is gonna, or all. Everybody's gonna have a spot. I think somebody's gonna be the odd man out. Yeah. But I think when you look at a player like Izzy McQuamu, Izzy has been my guy that I've wanted to play ever since I saw him. What he did in that Tampa game, I was like, Izzy should be starting. And for some reason, with the previous coaching regime, he was just buried. Zimmer started to play him more. But Izzy was still not playing over guys like Booth. We were playing practice squad players over Izzy. I don't know what that is about. So Right, and money
Yeah,
awarding yet? Like, what's going on? I don't know what the hell that is about.
yeah,
I'm hoping that Flus actually has eyes, and because there's no way that Amani Warren or Booth was better than him. I don't know who was making those calls, but I
right.
think it was very weird. But they started playing Izzy more because they started seeing his versatility. I mean, he's been having a hell of an off season too. He looks
Yeah.
jacked. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because
and
he was always kind of like, not always, but he's kind of tall. Kind of a little bit lanky, at least in my opinion. So we see that length, but he just kind of, at least for me, would kind of never fully be able to develop it. So be able to see him, like you said, kind of playing that slot position. I would love seeing him play around the line of scrimmage. I think especially looking for someone to kind of shore up that position right there.
right, he's
'Cause
so
he needs
physical.
somebody. Yeah,
Exactly. He's so physical, and I feel like he gives us reason why people love J. Lou is because he's a dog.
yeah,
He's a scrappy, he's scrappy. And
yeah.
so he's a competitor. And I feel like Izzy is the same way, a dog, a competitor. Izzy really got set back last year because he missed I think like a week or two of camp because he got sidelined because of a groin injury or something like that.
Yeah, that is true.
So
I actually forgot about that. Wow.
yeah, so
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, I forgot
I'm
about that.
hoping that he maintains his health. He balls the F out in preseason because I would love for Izzy. I feel like he is a player that no one is talking about. They really could be an X factor for this team.
Yeah, yeah,
He
I'm
could
with you.
really be a no one knows him, no, but he comes out, like Philly had their Zach Bond. Everybody thought he was just a practice squad player, then he became an all
Right.
pro. I feel
Hmm.
like Izzy McQuamu has that ability if we allow him to really play and start. So
Right.
we'll have to see. We'll see how that battle shakes up, but that's gonna be interesting. So who do you think week one we don't get Stephon Gilmore? Who do you think is the
No.
starting cornerbacks? Well, obviously Bland, but
Yeah, yeah.
the other
I mean,
two, the other two.
I'm really looking out, to see how Kalen kind of comes back because it kind of, guys coming out in the rookie year kind of sucked. He was kind of, he's being picked on, going against, some top receivers, not all top receivers, but this seemed like he was kind of, the game was a little bit too big for him in his rookie year. But and of course he dealt with injury, dealt with some things like that, and that always kind of sucks too during your rookie year. Trying to get back
Right.
on course.
Injury did set
Now,
him back. Injury did
yeah,
set Carson back.
yeah. So hopefully going into his second year, he can make a leap, and like I mentioned earlier, a new coaching staff he'll get, kind of a new second chance. You know what I'm saying? So I think I don't know about week one him being the actual starter. I'll say I can't wait to see him in preseason to see if he's kind of learned, especially with the teams that we do face. I don't know if they'll play their starters, but facing a team like the Ravens or even like the Rams, they have twitchy receivers. So I don't know who their backup depth receivers are, obviously, but hopefully just seeing him go against maybe some speedy receivers, see if he can kind of get his feet kind of back underneath him. But as far as starting, let me actually look. Cause I think guys. I mean, I know you mentioned guys like guys who've been in the room. Butler, he's recovering from that injury, but I think a guy who came up, kind of came on late last season, Troy Pride. I don't know if he'll be the starter, but I think
Troy
he can kind of
Pride.
give them. I think he can kind of give maybe some guys in there a little run for their money. Like he was around the ball, kind of had a nose for the ball, but I want to see a little bit more from him too. I think
You're right.
I want
He
to see a
was
little bit
Troy
more.
Pride was coming along. Troy
Yeah,
Pride.
especially
It's gonna be interesting. I'm excited for camp because I really want
yeah.
to see how are these rooms. Oh, my computer about to die. Y'all give me a second, but I really want to see how these
Okay.
rooms are about to shake out. But let me get my charge. I'll be right back.
Okay, no, take your time because actually, while watch the browser chart, you guys, I actually want to bring up a tweet with Savone Rebel because he was actually in the building around July 4th as well. So we're just gonna bring him up quickly. Let me see if I can get this down right quick. But yeah, as you guys can see, he was also getting in his workout, during the holiday weekend, and the reason I wanted to bring this up really is because Star brought up, Izzy McQuamu kind of being that, that lengthy, DB kind of showing some physicality around the line of scrimmage. That's really the reason why I'm excited to see Savone Rebel kind of come up because his length, what I'm saying, kind of his speed, just watching a little bit of his film, I gotta kind of go back and review it before the season does start. But I do love, kind of just what he's showing on film. He's not afraid to step up and tackle, not afraid to kind of play with an attitude, what I'm saying? And I think, a guy like that, especially if we're looking for somebody to kind of back up Diggs and not necessarily saying Diggs has that same attitude, but I feel like a player like Savone Rebel, you know what I'm saying, could, like, because he can play both sides of the field. He can travel if we do need, someone, like I said, and it's not going to be week one, at least in my opinion. It's not going to be week one for Rebel. I know he's kind of coming back, and they say he's going to be active during camp. But I don't know if he'll be the week one starter necessarily. But I think, someone with his length, someone with his physicality, I think someone like him would play very well, on the opposite side. And Star's back. I was just saying, since I brought up Savone Rebel, because I know we were talking about earlier about Izzy with his length, and his height.
Right.
And I think someone on the opposite side, not saying that they'll play opposite each other, but I think a player like Savone Rebel, I don't necessarily think he'll be out there week one, but someone who can play both sides, someone who can travel. I'm saying, just in case Diggs doesn't necessarily come back right away. I think, like I said, I don't think it'll be week one, but depending how the room shakes out, seeing how he looks in preseason. Because they say he's going to be active during camp. He's going to be taking, reps during camp. So I'm excited to see.
They said they did say he's a full go. I'm trying to see how tall is he, Jerome Rebel height. I'm just trying to see. Okay, so he's 6'2". He just has like a big frame.
Right.
He's kind of built like a safety versus like Izzy, 6'4".
Yeah, true.
We call him like the Slim Reaper, but I think it's still similar builds, because Lou said this. Lou said that he feels like Izzy and Savone have similar builds, and I can see that. I can see how they have similar builds. Even somebody might be taller, but they're just like a thicker body frame. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I feel like Izzy used to be super skinny, but he's put on a lot of muscle. So
yeah.
When you look at somebody like Savone, I definitely think that if he's ready by week one, he will be starting.
Yeah,
for sure.
I'm with it. Yeah,
for sure. I just think front office is gonna push him. Blah, blah, blah. Like, he's going to be starting. He's considered still in the draft. Blah 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 blah. Remember, he had a first round grade on him. We got him in the third round. So if he's really gonna be ready by week one, I believe he's gonna be starting for sure. I believe. But I think that because he's also a ball. He's not as good as Blaine or Diggs, because I saw him in college drop a lot of them, but he gets his hands on a lot of balls. You know what I'm saying? He got to work on the drug machine to catch it, but he does get his hands on a lot of balls. And he can also be like that shutdown, corner. And he's very physical as well. So he loves to come up and hit, loves to come up and tackle.
Facts.
So that's the type of mentality that you want. That's the type of mentality that Flus wants on his team. He wants his corners to come up, tackle, be physical. Hence, you don't draft a guy like that if you ain't looking for that. You know what I'm saying?
Facts.
And then
and I just have one more note on Keemon Hall. I know he's probably going to end up being.
Keemon. Yeah, that's another guy.
I really love, kind of along with, at least for me, I have the similar thoughts along with Troy Pride. I really want to see a little bit more from him. I think he had a great camp, a great third preseason game last season. I think he played well. I think he played very, very well in the slot and boundary as well. He showed that he can play both in that last preseason game. So I love what I see from him. I think he had a great camp as well. I meant to bring up some clips that I took from last year, but I had to do some rearranging with my computer. But maybe I can see him bringing up next week. When camp actually kicks off. But and we'll see how these guys how they play in camp. Start next week. I think next week is no pads, but then I think it's the following week where they actually start with pads. But I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see this DB group, because like we've been mentioning, a lot of these guys bring different things. Some similar things, but different things to the table. Kind of in their own.
We appreciate you. Right? We appreciate you, CJ. Hold on, let me get the CJ question. CJ, before you leave, I hope you're still in here. You said, someone said Carson is an off-ball defender, not press, and that's why he was bad last year. Is that true? That's interesting. That's a good question. I think I have heard that or something. Someone saying that he's not like a press corner. No, who you're thinking about, CJ? You're thinking about Kyer Elam. People were saying that Kyer struggled in Buffalo because that's not a scheme fit for him. They're saying Kyer is a press man corner, but Buffalo had him playing more like zone type. and that's why he didn't really look right in that scheme. I believe that's what you're talking about. But anyway, and shout out to my guy JV. JV, I appreciate you so much. You always are donating to my Cash App. I appreciate you.
Yes, fact.
I think I shout out to Rico. I'm just trying to make sure I didn't miss anybody else. Okay, but yeah. But anyway, yeah, I think um it's gonna be interesting. I think that if I were to decide today, though, who would be the starters, assuming that Revel will be healthy, I say
Yeah.
it will be Bland, Revel, and Izzy. Izzy is my
Okay.
wild card. I know nobody agrees. I know
No.
they think it's gonna be. I don't know. Oh, no! Not Izzy. Not Izzy. Not Izzy. Sorry, Izzy. I was gonna say you. If Izzy wins out, that'd be crazy. I would love for that to happen, but I think realistically, it probably be Bland, Revel if he's healthy. If Revel's not healthy, then Izzy for sure. But
Yeah.
if Revel's healthy and they gonna push him week one, it would be Bland, Revel, and I would say it's gonna be Kyrie Elam.
Yeah, I was gonna say Kair and well, I'm actually gonna Kair Rebel, and then maybe depending, maybe they might see Bland in the slot because I don't know. I really want to see where they end up placing
I
Bland
would
because
love to put Bland in the slot.
so
Put him
that's
in the slot.
yeah, that's where he thrives at. But he kind of has something to say about playing the slot. So we'll kind of see
Yeah.
where he ends up being placed. But I would love to see those. I would love to see those three starters. You know what I'm saying that. And like you said, I'm rooting for Izzy too. Maybe they'll maybe put some of these veteran guys out first to see if guys like Izzy, guys like Damone, maybe
Right, they gonna give him a chance first. That's right.
exactly.
And then see if the rookies can take the spots. Basically,
Yeah. I agree with you on that. So who's
um,
our final group?
safeties, the safety
Safeties.
group.
Okay.
We kind of talked about Wanye,
Yeah.
and Izzy. I'm not sure because Izzy could start or have packages as a safety too. I don't know if they're still playing him as a tweener or if they're actually listing him as a. I think they're listing him as a cornerback. I don't think he's in the safety room no more. If
No,
I'm
he's. I mean, I'm on DallasCowboys.com. They have him listed as a safety.
okay, so maybe that's why he got jacked up. So they're not gonna play Izzy at corner then. Damn, I hate that because Zim actually saw Izzy as a corner,
Yeah.
but
I mean,
okay.
it could be both. I mean, because they have Wanye taking
Right,
snaps
you
at
go
both. You know what I'm
right.
saying?
That's true. They did have Wanye playing both. I think the safety room. I really would love to get rid of one of those vets.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel
and by
like you
vets,
said,
I mean Hooker or Dono. But I don't think it's gonna be Hooker because Hooker did an interview recently where he's talking about how him and Flus are close and he
that
loved
is right. I
Flus
forgot because he
and
was with Flus in Indy, wasn't it?
I
Oh,
think
that
Flus
is right.
drafted him. I think Flus drafted him. So
Oh
uh
yeah. Yeah,
he's not going nowhere. You know what I'm saying? He's not
Because I was
going
going
nowhere. He's
because
not going
what
nowhere.
you said earlier had me thinking of really what you said earlier when you talked about a camp trade. Like when you said a veteran, I was thinking of one of them two, one of them safeties.
It
But
could be Dono. It could be
yeah,
Dono. I think it's time to let Dono go.
yeah. Especially when
Right
I
now.
think you can still kind of get some. I mean, although he's on the sideline right now, I think you can still kind of get some value for him. I think because he's a
Yeah,
I think he's
Dono
known
is
around the league as a hard hitter. You know what I'm saying?
right.
I think for him it depends on his
Somebody
scheme,
like the
but
Lions, he fits great with that culture. I can even
facts.
see the Ravens, the Bucks.
Right,
Like Dono is a hard hitting safety. He just doesn't scheme wise. He
right.
didn't fit Zimmer's scheme, and I don't think he's gonna fit Flu's scheme neither.
Yeah.
So I feel like
And he's on the sideline right now. So I mean,
right, and he's so I think with him, like send him to somewhere else where he's or the Steelers, like send him somewhere
ooh,
else
yeah. Yeah, because
where
didn't they just lose Minka? They lost Minka
yeah
Minka in the
they did
offseason.
did lose me because so I'm like send him somewhere to one of those groups. You get value for him, and that's where you
Yeah,
can do a player for player type of trade or something. But I
yeah,
think let's stop forcing Dono on the field. He's just not a scheme fit. He's not a bad player.
yeah,
He's just not a scheme fit. So it's like get him somewhere where he can be a scheme fit, and that will open up room for guys like Wanye.
Right.
for guys like Izzy to get on the field. Said Dono and Hooker.
Yeah, I'm with you, Twy, man. I ain't gonna lie. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I would love for them both to be traded, but I just don't think because Hooker and Flute's relationship, I don't think he's gonna get traded. That's the only thing.
Yeah,
Cleveland too,
absolutely.
the basement. Yeah, you're right. Cleveland's a good spot for Dono. So
Right.
I really hope the Cowboys.
JOK kind of nicked up last year too.
JOK is out. JOK is out for the season. He's out for the season.
What?
Yeah, he got hurt. Yeah, he's out for the season. He got hurt like beginning of OTAs or camp some way he got hurt, but he's out for the 2025 season. So I definitely think you can find a trade partner for Dono.
Yeah.
You send him out of here. You get a player, likely a defensive tackle or something like that. Yeah. I feel like you have the safeties. You don't need to go and do safety for safety. We don't need another safety. Just bring an average ass safety in here.
Right.
Like, please get a position that we need. Get a position that we go running back. Get a position that we need, please.
Right.
So it's like trade Dono and get some type of value, because I'm like, he should not be on the field over a Wanye and an Izzy McQuamu. Like, let's be serious here, because what he does now, Izzy, I know, is that type of player. Wanye, I don't know if Wanye he can play in the box. They did say that they were playing him at slot. I don't know how if that's a fit for him per se. I'd have to see it, you know what I'm saying? But I do know Wanye is a good coverage. He's a good coverage safety.
Yeah.
Which I think that's primarily what Zim is looking for in his defense is, can you be a coverage safety first and then run help, I think. Yeah. So, but yeah.
I'm with the basement boys here too, as far as getting a DT. I mean, I know we're kind of getting towards the end of the show, but I know we can just kind of go through the defensive line rotation. I know, we have these guys, it is, in my opinion, the defensive edges. I know we have, the stars, we have Micah Fowler, we also have Sam Williams with a chance to, be one of the starters out there. Mm-hmm. You mentioned earlier Donovan Ezaraku, will probably get a chance to be out there. I think he was taking snaps with the ones. I think he was taking snaps with the twos as well. I got to go back over some of the OTAs notes, but I think he's a guy who will definitely get a chance. And like I mentioned earlier, Fowler, making his return back to the Cowboys, we loved. I mean, he just had a double digit sack season just last year, so he's going to be out there, working hard for the Cowboys. Just kind of looking at some of these comments, I saw someone mention earlier. I forget who. I wanted to go back to these comments. Someone mentioned Jay Tuia earlier. I think, as far as, in my opinion, I think the DTs in this room, if of course, barring if they don't go into free agency or make a camp trade like you mentioned earlier, sis. But I think these guys that we have in the room, especially since they already made the move of cutting Justin Rogers, I don't know if I see them making another cut for DT unless these guys just really bad, or maybe to kind of maybe work some numbers for the roster, maybe later on down the line. But we have Jay Toya, we have Tommy Akingbasote, who are both draft picks. And I'm not saying draft picks can't be cut, but I think I think these guys want to get a chance to kind of see what the development will look like. Mm-hmm. But they did bring in a Solomon Thomas. We do still have Osa, but I just think the room is just so thin. I don't know if DT is necessarily the position they'll make the cuts at first. Now, and I think you possibly could. Of course, I forgot. We do still have Mozzie as well. So, and just looking at the list, I did forget that they did bring in Perrion Winfrey from the UFL or USFL. I forget the name, but so there could be maybe some room for maybe some cuts, maybe a Winfrey if he doesn't necessarily show. But there was one tweet when he first got in the building that he put in some work. I really haven't seen much since then, so I don't know what he's been looking like with the guys. I think he came in like either right after OTAs ended or right when they were already done. So I'm excited to see him, how he works. Because we definitely need another big body in that room. But I want to see Mozzie's development, in his third year, to see how how he comes along. And I'm excited for Jay Thawia because kind of watching some of this film, I did see him go up against. I think just just one game he did go up against Cornelius. But I like the fierceness that he showed at the line. I'm sorry. Yeah, Johnny Cornelius, the other draft pick that they got. But I like the fierceness that he showed at his line. I like his movement at the line as well. So I want to see how he goes against, of course, these NFL, bodies, these big bodies in the league. But I like our DT room. I don't love it. We'll see if they make any more moves during camp. Like you mentioned earlier with the trade, that would be the position if anybody's available. I'm saying I don't want to see a reach or anything like that. But if there's anybody available, that would definitely be obviously the position I wish they were sure. But I like our room, and I want to see how, especially with the addition of Winfrey. Like I said, I kind of forgot earlier, but seeing the addition of Winfrey, I don't know if his complete history, but if he does have some background in the NFL, maybe he can kind of bring some pointers, or even bring some pointers, just being, having that many years in the league. I got to look up his information, but if he can kind of bring any kind of advice or any kind of pointers to these younger guys in the room, I think that's just a plus in itself, especially with another veteran in the room with Solomon Thomas. They don't just have just one veteran to look to. They now maybe possibly have a second veteran to look to.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think with the defensive line, we just are just overloaded at edge, really. Which is why I think Micah is going to be playing part-time linebacker, part-time edge. And maybe more more edge than linebacker. But I do think Micah's going to be playing a little bit of linebacker this year, because I just saw another picture of him. I'm like, Micah is lean.
Yeah.
Like, he's leaned out. And if you're going to play edge full time, why would you be leaning out? That don't even make sense. You know what I'm saying? He already is undersized. So it's like, I'm going to be more undersized. Like, it's clear he's going to be doing more than just hand in the dirt, sitting on the edge, in my opinion. Now, obviously, you brought Fowler back, which is awesome. Who's
yeah, I love that.
He's a walking 10-sack guy. You know what I'm saying? So I really do think like you're going to be starting off with Micah and Fowler, but I think when you don't have Micah at edge, then you're going to be putting some Donovan Ezeraku over there, because Donovan Ezeraku has the deepest bag. Like, he has the deepest bag. You know what I'm saying? Or, he's top 3 in the room of a deep bag. He may even have a deeper bag than Micah. I'm not saying he's better than Micah. He's not better than Micah, but I'm saying he's a very refined pass rusher.
Right.
But he's a very refined pass rusher. So he definitely he's for sure going to be getting snaps. And then Rico said, what about number 94? That's a forgotten man. Nobody has even mentioned Marshawn Nealon. So I don't know what Marshawn Nealon look like, what he's going to be doing. I don't know what his offseason game plan was. I ain't seen him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so I don't know what Nealon will be doing. You know what I'm saying? I think he had some good reps last year, but he's not refined as a pass rusher. He's a run stopper. He's more like your D-Law. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
it's gonna be interesting to see how that. And then you got Sam Williams, who's in a contract year. You know what I'm saying? So we are when I say loaded, we are loaded at edge. We are loaded at edge. And
he's considered more of a pass rusher as well, right? Sam Williams.
Yeah. Sam Williams is a pass rusher. You know what I'm saying? Now he can stop the run, set the edge and stuff, but he's more of a pass rusher. So when you look at, then you move on the inside, you got Osa, you got Solomon Thomas as our 3 techs, which I feel like that's kind of a hell of a 3 tech group. Then behind them you got Perion Renfrey, which I don't know what he about, but I do know he only got kicked out of the league for behavior issues. It wasn't like he was kicked out because of talent.
Okay.
So you got Perion Winfrey, then you got Denzel Daxon, who has been, regardless of wherever he's in on the depth chart, he's been putting in work with Micah and also Dikizua. So that's gonna be interesting to see how that shakes out. Now, when you look at the DTs, we got Mozzie and we got Jay Toia, which I like Jay Toia a lot. You know what I'm saying? He was the only rookie that I actually did like a film review session on him. So I F with Jay Toia.
Yeah, that was one of your badass videos, Star. That was really one of your, I love that video. That was awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate that. But it's like he was, because I was really happy to get him, because I know people say, we really needed DT, but the issue is DTs need years to cook. Like, they need years to cook. Like, not even Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter was amazing their first year. Like, you saw flashes, you know what I'm saying? But Jalen Carter was his second year, is his second was his second year, and he still did pretty good. But when you look at the stats, him and Osa had about equal stats. So it just takes a while for a DT to get where they need to go. Now Jay Toya, and it depends on what Flus is asking the DTs. Well, I do know because they said they're going to be a attack front.
Yeah.
So Jay Toya is somebody that you want in the rotation.
Yeah.
He's not someone that you want to depend on. You want him in the rotation, but you don't want only him and only he's the guy behind Mozzie.
Right.
In my opinion, I think that Mozzie is going to be just fine. I think people continue to talk about Mozzie. I said it today because it's just a narrative around Mozzie. They're not turning on film, and even people who look at film on Mozzie, they still say, "Yeah, he's good, but or he's better than what I thought." But they still think he's a bust because he's not a pass rusher. He doesn't get all these sacks, and people just think he's a first round pick, so he need to be getting sacks. You know what I'm saying? So, but I'm like, that's not really what nose ticks do. But whatever, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Unless you're Dexter Lawrence, you know what I'm saying? But
right, yeah.
Dexter Lawrence is the best defensive tackle in the league, so it's like they don't grow on trees. You know what I'm saying? So, but I think Mozzie is going to be just fine. But it's like you need a rotation in Flus and Wycott and scheme because it's an attack front.
Yeah.
So it's going full out rep after rep after rep. So you're going to have to rotate. And right now, I don't think that it's a wise idea to give Jay too many snaps a game, in my opinion. Yeah. That's why I'm like, let's just like Philly's front is stout. Their defensive tackles are stout. The Giants' defensive tackles are stout. Washington, y'all kind of lost what y'all had over there. So I'm not really worried about y'all. But just like Philly and the Giants, defensive tackles are stout. The Cowboys need the same thing. But I'm not worried because I do think the Cowboys are going to add another nose tackle. If they run out there with Jay, I guess Jay better be the next coming to Jesus Christ. You know what I'm saying? Maybe Jay Ratliff or whatever. Like, I don't know about that. But, I mean, and it's also on you, Flus. Like, when Zimmer needed something, he said something. When Shotty said he wanted Booker, he said that. When Shotty said, I want Pickens, he said that. Like, if you want somebody, then you better be voicing it. Because otherwise, if you don't voice it in the public, we the fans can't help you. And if you're doing it behind closed doors, you better be hounding them like Shotty was, because clearly he was up Jerry and Steven's ass.
Yeah, yeah. And they were giving Eberflus a lot of players in the beginning, so hopefully, he has, him being there in the previous administration. Hopefully, he does have that relationship with the Jones where he can say, okay, hey, we're getting closer to the season. We are in camp. I know you got, like you mentioned earlier, I know you got to make these moves during camp. Okay, I've been looking at this guy. And maybe now he's kind of, behind the scenes, but kind of getting his notes along during this break. So that way, maybe when they do get back to camp, he can have that meeting or that sit down, or even just passing in the hallway. Hey, Jerry, like I was thinking that, we're gone. Look at these guys who may be available at the start of camp, or maybe toward, if they make a move toward the end of camp or in the middle of the camp, I'm looking at these guys and these different teams. That way they can kind of be ahead of the game in that, kind of in that way. So that way, if they do decide to make a move, he already maybe has a list of guys or maybe a couple guys here and there that he may want to be able to snatch up.
Yep. I agree. So, I mean, it's really, I do think, maybe they should take a shot at Jay Toya's brother. I think he's still on the block. Who was a 3rd round pick out of Baylor. I forgot his name.
I think Siaki.
Yes. Yeah. Sika, I think his name or something like that. Yeah. So, yeah, Flus, you got to speak up. You know what I'm saying? Like, if they not listening to you behind closed doors, you gotta go to the public. Period. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't be a kiss ass, because being a kiss ass, you can be a kiss ass all you want, but if the Jones is gonna be looking at you like, if you're not getting the results. That's what I'm saying. So it's like, you better speak up, because if you don't speak up, they still expecting you to produce.
Right. It's kind of.
Yeah.
I kind of look at Rico's comment here, not just for Parsons, but kind of for the sake of all players. Like you were just talking about Toia. We talked about last year how Osa, I think his snap count went up to I think in the 70 percentage, where he
Oh
was
yeah.
doing a lot
Also
of the work
snap
and he was
cap.
kind of worn out.
Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Late in the season, he was kind of worn out. So if we do put that kind of pressure on a Jay Toia or even a Micah Parsons, we see in previous seasons where late stretch in the season, right before playoffs or even just those last couple of games, he kind of worn out. He doesn't have that help on the field. So if we do have, like you mentioned earlier, just having style rotation is very important. Not just about. It's not always about that singular player. It's about having the depth for. So when and not just knock on wood, if he does miss time or even if he's just off the field for a couple of plays, you don't want that drop off because in those couple of players, that's when a big play can happen, or that's when a mistake could be made, and that's when next thing you know the opposing team could be down the field. You know what I'm saying? So we need that rotation. We need those guys. We need those edges. We need a Sam Williams to step up. Even a guy, maybe a Peyton Turner who may not even make the team, but
He probably not making a team. Be real. That man ain't making a team. There's no room for him. Like where is he gonna play it? Unless he just becomes it. I mean, he gotta. He better be the next coming or something. Yeah, like by leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
Because I'm like that nigga ain't making this team. He ain't making this team. Like
crazy.
Gotta go ahead and play him now. We're just too loaded, and it's like, bro, what are you? You've been hurt your whole career. Yeah, you was healthy last year, but you was coming off the bench and getting a couple snaps a game. Like, you're about to beat out Dante Fowler, Donovan Ezaraku, Marshawn Nealon, Sam Williams. Please be for real. It's not happening. There's no room for him on this team. There's literally zero room.
Right, that's true.
It's zero room. But I mean, he could. He could. I don't know, but I'm just saying, like, I don't think so. But you know what I'm saying?
A far shot on that one.
He'll be on a practice squad. We can practice squad him for sure.
Yeah,
because I don't think anybody else wants him. Yeah,
right. I mean, we saw last year. We need, and not just for the edges, but we definitely need. That practice squad is going to be important too. I mean, I know we have these great stars and even some great depth guys who going to be suited up for the game day. But practice squad is going to be important too because when we get late stretch down the season or even week 8, week 9, whenever they decide to make trades or whatever, we definitely need to make sure we have our depth short up because if the Cowboys are talking about making a playoff run or even on those first couple of rounds, we're going to need guys who can be able to come, be able to step up. You know what I'm saying? Just in case, we are entering into those big game situations. That's why I like that the coaching staff that's kind of closed out. That I like that the coaching staff is giving all of these guys kind of a fair shot. I know we have guys who will obviously be starters. We have to go through the names, but guys who obviously be starters and guys who will be following up behind them. But I like that it seems like all the players across the board are getting that fair shot at playing because the coaching staff letting them know that we're going to need you, whether we need you on practice squad, whether we need you in practice, whether we need you a week 5, you know what I'm saying? We're going to need every single player on this team to do your job and to be able to show up. So, it's always called, like I always talking about next man up. So that way these guys are prepared. So that way when they come into camp, they're ready. You know what I'm saying? They're not, worried about what the playbook says, day 1 of camp, right? These guys are ready to hit the ground running. So, and you need the same thing when the season starts. We need the same thing when preseason starts. It's no longer about camp. When you hit that last preseason game, it's no longer about camp when you hit the first actual regular season game. So I think the coaching staff wants these guys to be ready at every stage of the season, so that way they can be able to show their preparedness and be able to show that they can step up, at any given moment. Because I think that's what the coaching staff is trying to get to these players, that at any given moment their name and their number could be called.
That's facts, sis. I agree with you. I agree with everything you said. So I mean, as we wrap it up, it's like camp is next week.
Yeah.
I mean, the season is here, guys. You know what I'm saying? Once camp starts, I mean, it's getting serious because you're starting game planning and everything like that. Because before you know, we'll have it's like you go to camp, then you're only there at camp for like 2 weeks. At the end of the 3rd week, I believe it's already a preseason game.
Yeah.
Or something similar, something like that. I had to look at the Cowboys schedule, but yeah, I mean, it's coming up. We got it's going to be a lot of battles. I'm just hoping, Shadi, stay true to your word.
Yeah.
You said your theme is compete every day. It's all about competition, all about competition, all about competition. Stay true to your word. Stick to your guns. because Jerry and Steven, they are going to try to most likely they may stay out of it for now. I
Yeah.
think I think Shotty got to mess up in season for them to start, getting involved. But
Yeah.
even so, like you just still want to keep that up. Like you said something, and the players know that hasn't always been the case in the past. So you really got to practice what you preach and keep it up. And just how you fought for Pickens and Booker, you're going to have to fight for every single person that you want on that field that
Yeah.
you feel deserves it. Like you're gonna have to fight. The coaching staff is gonna have to fight. But at the end of the day, I'm fine with like fight for what you believe in. Fight for what you believe in so that we can have the best season that we possibly can.
Yeah.
And that's how we're gonna have. You talk about you want to have the best culture in the world. Well, the only way you're gonna have the best culture in the world is by having true competition, where these men know they actually fought and earned their spot,
Yeah.
not that it was given.
Yeah. And you can
So that's
see
my final thing.
no, and you can definitely dang, bro, the last minute my darn camera goes out, but my
Your
bad,
camera,
y'all.
bro, it's all right. Just talk
I'm
anyway.
not sure. I was gonna say I just don't know why. I don't know why that happened, but I was just gonna say I just love that like I said before, the players are getting this fair shot. And like you said, since I love that these guys will be able to kind of step forward and, like you said, be able to know for sure that they earn their spot. You know what I'm saying? Playing because these coaches really, at every single moment of the day they're asking these players to compete.
Facts.
Appreciate
But yeah, appreciate you guys. Thank y'all so much for y'all's love and support. We really appreciate y'all. We're so grateful for all of our subscribers. I don't know if there's new people watching, but
Yeah.
I've gotten a crap ton of I got a crap ton of subscribers recently, so I really appreciate if y'all are watching. You didn't comment. I
Yeah.
really appreciate y'all. But the basement boys, I think you're probably a new subscriber of mine, or maybe you just haven't really been in the chat all that much. But I really appreciate you, the basement boy, Twyman, Rico. You're a legend. JVB boy, really appreciate you. CJ the original. I know he left, but who else was in here? I know Boss and Amp was in here. Everybody who was
Yeah.
in the chat, Ray Sean Staunch, I really appreciate you. You was in the chat. I'm trying to see if
Yeah,
I missed
Marcus.
anybody else. Marcus, yes, Marcus McFarland, Swain. Sorry, Swain, we missed you, but we
Oh,
appreciate
Swain
you
came
so.
through.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Swain
Sorry,
came through.
babe. I
He just
missed
left
you.
one comment that they were rolling so fast, so we appreciate
Yeah.
you, Swain. I'm trying to see if anybody else. I think that's pretty much it. Oh, and then Meech, we appreciate you, Meech. So thank you to everybody. And John Jones showed up. Thank you, John.
Yes.
So we
Yes. Facts.
appreciate everybody who was in the chat with us. We really appreciate y'all's love and support. Continue to support our channels. Please subscribe to our YouTube channels if you haven't already. Donate to our cash apps. Mine is Stargazer, $Stargazer Sports. Um,
Mine's
Nick-
$
MP
MP Cox 90.
Yeah, so Stephen White, you coming in, Kelvin Robinson, thank you guys so much for y'all support. We really appreciate y'all. If you subscribe to one channel, subscribe to both. I appreciate that. Please subscribe to both channels. But really appreciate you guys, and yeah, we will see you. Hopefully, we see you guys next week for sure.
Yes. Thank you for your time, sis. Appreciate you guys. We'll see you guys next week.